Torah Or, the Parshas Toldot, page Yud Ches, first column, second paragraph. Ubezeh Yuvan. Okay, the Alter Rebbe is explaining that the whole tzchaik, the whole pleasure of L'aseh Lavai, which is caused for Yitzchak, is the transformation of evil to good. That is the ultimate new concept. It's a very new concept, and that's what causes joy. And now it says that Yitzchak, though, elevated and accomplished that through the level of Rivka. Okay, so now he's going to explain, besides the fact that Rivka came from Lavan and Besuel, from a house of evil, but he's explaining now the name itself of Rivka. Rivka comes from the word Revaka, Shalosh Shalosh. The Vakas means a group. Rivka actually means group. The good quotes the expression of Chazal. So Abba, that Pirish, what does the word Rivka mean? It's Chibor v'Kishon. So Shalosh Arba Behemis Yachtov. It's called Rivka, Ravka, whatever. In other words, when you have a group of 3 animals, 4 animals together, it's called Ravaka Shobaka. So you see, Rivka means binding, connection. The same thing about the Chayis of the Merkava, which is like the animals, the 3 animals, the 4 animals of the Merkava, when they unite and join together. To elevate the Adam and the Merkava, like we learned yesterday, that there's the Adam ala Merkava, and then you have the animals that elevate Adam. The same thing, the neshama comes down only through the nefesh habamis, only through the animal, so can it uplift the nefesh sholikis. So he says that's the level of chayis neisis. Is a rivka shal shalish baka, which is the hiskalulus, the unity of chesed gvura teferes. A pnei arya is chel chesed and pnei shar is gvura. Well, upon him, and sometimes it's arba, which is the level of Adam. Shebachayis and Merkava, which are connected the Daled Midas of Chesed, Gvur, Teferes, and Malchus. Okay, the problem is, it's interesting. The Gemara always speaks about a group of animals of 3 or 4. So he says, and the Merkava, sometimes it's Daled Raglei Merkava, sometimes it's called the Gimel Raglei Merkava, depends what level we're talking about. But you have over there, Chesed, Ari's Yamin is Chesed, and this the shard is the level of Gvura, and sometimes you have the 4th level. And he says that's the level of Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, and Malchus. Like you have, by the way, you have the Dalu Raglei Merkava, is also Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel. There's also the Dalu Raglei Merkava of the Ovis, is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, again, is like Shard, Arya, and then you have the level of Rachel, which is the level of Malchus. Similar to what Chazal say, Ha'avis Heinen Merkava. The Avis are the chariot of Hashem, which is the level of Chesed Gvur Teferes, and David is Ragla Revia. And David is the 4th level. Sometimes it says Rachel, sometimes it says David. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying, but what's Alter Rebbe saying? That this Yitzchak is accomplishing the elevation of Klippa, first breaking it, and then elevating the Klippa to Kedusha. That's the ultimate level of Yitzchak. Yud, the L'aseh Lavai, is going to be the level of Tzchaik and Tainug. Now what is it that the Neshama becomes elevated through the Avodah down here, and therefore there will be an infinite greater level of Elokus brought down here by Tchias HaMesim, and that level is accomplished through Rivka. Okay, well now he's not done yet. This is what it says in the Merkava of Yecheskel. They're connected, the woman to her sister, meaning the chibur v'hiskalulus, the unity of all those 4 levels. There's a daf chayis neisis, only through that can the chayis elevate the kisei, mishum shaydei hiskalulus v'chibur amidas yachtov. Through the unity of the midas, I'll explain in a second. Can you be mamshech a level where all the midas are one. In other words, you have like this. Midas, one entity contradicts another entity. Especially when you have chesed, gvura, tiferes. Chesed is right, gvura is left, tiferes is in the middle. One is momayla lamata, one is momata lamayla, one is a combination of both together. So basically, the midas are opposite. Yet, when they become together, they unite, they join together, so that reveals a level of elokus, which is higher than the existence of midas, where in that level, all the midas are the same. Like we said, when you want to connect cheshach and or good and bad, you have to tap into a level that's so great that light and dark are the same, and good and bad are the same, and everything is the same. So he said, dafka through the chibur, that's the level of Rivka that he spent, Ravaka's Bakar, the unity of 3 or 4 animals together. When you have the unity of midas, meaning the level of bittul, because there's no yeshes over there. There's complete bittul, then the midas join together, and then it can elevate the kisei with the adam that's on the kisei in a way that it's mamshich, a level of elokus, basically of atzmos, which all the midas are the same thing. So therefore, it has to be accomplished. Yitzchak accomplishes this level of tzchaik only through Rivka, only through the level of bittul.
When we say Hashem, in there all the midas are the same.
No, you have midas arachmim. There's still different midas, but over there there's complete bittul.
So it's so high, it's complete bittul that all
It's all bittul.
It's all bittul.
Yeah.
How is Rivka brings bittul?
Because Rivka means connection, but a group. A group, basically, by definition, means they're all getting along. So the only way people can get along, if I only care about myself and you only care about yourself, we're never going to get along. It doesn't work like that. Not in a marriage, not in friendships, not in anything. Okay? The way friendships work is I care about you more than I care about myself. And then you can get along.
It's a high level.
No, that's called marriage in English.
Self-nullification.
Self-nullification, correct. Listen, sometimes you do get it right. Well, there, Yuvan Bavayis Hashem Ba'adam. Now we can understand, through this is understood. Navayis Adam Kshiyesh Bechinas is Kalus Amidas. When there's the unity of Midas, of Ava V'yira, V'seirer Esrachmim Al Nafshe, and the and the mercy on his nefesh. Sheyar deployim, that the nefesh comes down. Like we learned in the other Maimorim. What do you have to have, Rachmanis, on your nefesh? You come from such a lofty level, it comes all the way down. Okay? So you have Ava and Yira, which is Avram and Yitzchak, Chesed and Gevurah. And then you have Rachmim, which is the level of Tiferes, that you have a Rachmanis on yourself. And that's the level of Rivka Shol Sholosh Sholosh. Bokosh midas nefesh shabamis. That then the midas of the nefesh shabamis, miskared and miklipas neigal, become refined. Because sholosh klipsa tameis, complete evil you can't elevate. So it's not the avodah. The avodah of sholosh klipsa tameis is to negate it. Because evil by itself is no existence. The only existence that evil is when we feed it. Like we learned many times, positive mitzvahs is to bring kedusha in the world. Keeping negative mitzvahs doesn't bring kedusha into the world. And therefore, like we learned many times, there's no bracha on a negative mitzvah. Why is there no bracha on a negative? You can't say shekid shalom b'mitzvah. A negative, not eating chazer, not speaking lashon hara, not doing whatever, you're not doing anything. It doesn't bring kedusha into the world. The purpose of negative commandments, not to do something forbidden, is Hashem created good and bad. The purpose of good and bad, the purpose of bad is that good should overcome it. In other words, bad is a means to an end that it should overcome the evil. So when a person transgresses, God forbid, a loisasa, a negative mitzvah, so then because they're connected to Kedusha, so when I eat chazer, I strengthen the evil of chazer in the world. If I don't eat chazer, I'm not doing anything. But then chazer has no sustenance. It's not fed by anybody. And then it gets weaker. So then Kedusha automatically is stronger.
But you're doing the will of Hashem by not eating chazir. So isn't that?
But you're not doing the will of Hashem. It's a passive doing the will of Hashem. You're not actively doing the will of Hashem.
When you have a choice to eat chazir or not.
Let me ask you a question. When I sleep,
Right.
yeah, I'm not, let's say, okay, talking Lashon Hara, yeah? Does that mean if I sleep 6 hours a night, I get 6 hours straight of no Lashon Hara talking?
No, because you're not actively conscious.
Oh, so, but I'm doing the will of Hashem.
No, but you're not consciously. Here I'm talking about consciously.
Okay, so now I'm up and we're learning, and I'm not speaking Lashon Hara yet. So, does that mean that I'm getting a mitzvah no Lashon Hara? The only time you get, when the Gemara says, whoever keeps a negative commandment is like they did a positive mitzvah, is when I'm dying to speak Lashon Hara, I want to speak Lashon Hara, and then I'm actively breaking myself. But I'm still not bringing Kedusha into the world.
And then if someone is very, very, very hungry, and God forbid, there is a cheeseburger in front of them. Right, very hungry. And they're not going to eat it.
No? So then you get a reward as if, but did you bring Kedusha into the world? No. No. It's just if you would have eaten the cheeseburger, you would have brought evil into the world.
But you're consciously connecting to Hashem.
Active doing brings Kedusha.
Right.
Not active doing can't bring Kedusha.
Yeah, that's a gift.
That's all. So what do you mean? So you're saying not like that now?
No, I'm saying consciously, a person doesn't do an avera.
So the Gemara says you get a reward, but still you're not bringing Kedusha in the world. That's what it says in the Torah. Rivka Yitzis. Right? She was going out to water her, Lavan's cattle. What does it mean she's going out? She Yitzis mi klipas nega. She's going out of klipas nega. And she's transforming darkness to light. Pa'amim shel arba arba. Sometimes, so he said, sometimes, like you said before, the level of Rivka and Chazal is either 3 animals or 4 animals. Why does it pick that number 3 or 4? Because sometimes it's 3, Chesed Gvur Tiferes. Sometimes it's 4, including Malchus, which is, that's your alarm again, which is Bittul Kabbalah's oil, which is Bittul and Kabbalah's oil, Avedis Eved, which is the level of an Eved, Ki Aveda Vayirem Shnei Mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah to be an Eved of Hashem, and there's a mitzvah to fear Hashem. Yeah? So then sometimes you have Chesed Gvur Tiferes to elevate, and sometimes you have the Malchus, which is the Aved of Kabbalah's oil, Bittul also. And he says, that's what it says. Yitzchak was playing with his wife, Mitzachik. But here, the Rebbe explained that through Rivka, do you come to the actual level of Yitzchak? Which is Tainuk, she is Galalos and Lovei, which is the beard of Shemban, B'Gematria Behema, right? We have the names of Hashem, Ma, Ban, Sag, and Ab, right? So, Mem Hey is the numerical value of Adam. Ban, which is 52, is the numerical value of Behema. That's what it said, but these are all combinations of Hashem's name. In other words, Yud Ke Vav Ke equals 26. Okay, but then you have the milui of the letters, like Yud is Yud Vav Dalet. Hey could be Hey Hey, Hey Hey, or Hey Yud. Vav could be Vav Vav or Vav Aleph Vav. And Hey again. So through the various different combinations of the miluyim, so then you have 45, 52, 63, and 72. Okay? But he says that 45 Ma is Adam and Ban is Behema. Okay? That's what it says. Adam ubehema toshi Hashem. That refers to Ma and Ban, which is the level of the salvation of Yud Kei Vav Kei, because the milui of the various. So he says, because the Mata in Amphim Mispardin, because down here the level of Rivka is in the house of the Suel and Love, and that's all separation. Period. Not Achdus Hashem. Aval they are bearded as Nasis Galos, then it becomes the unity. So the Rebbe is explaining like this. The whole Maimon is explaining, in order to understand the Mayim Rabbim and Nohar and Mayan and that whole thing, he said we need to understand Yitzchak. I mean, we understand Rivka, he says. Okay? Because he says, at the beginning of the Maimon, he says like this. We need to understand Rivka, but in order to understand Rivka, we first need to understand Yitzchak. That's what he said before the beginning of the Maimon. So he says, okay, it's Vatered Ein Vatmali Chada. Now the Rebbe started explaining, how do you get to this Gidul Lasu Lover? It's through Rivka coming and Kada al Shichma and the Kad, and she lowered it, okay? She filled the Kado, he says, is the 24 books of Torah. So he says, in order to understand Rivka, we need to understand Yitzchak. So the Rebbe elaborating the whole thing of Yitzchak Tzchaik, which is ultimately Lasu Lover. Because that's when the ultimate transformation of bad is to good, which is the ultimate enjoyment, because it's something new, right? But then he says, that level of Yitzchak has to come through Metzachek, because Rivka Ishtir, it has to come through Rivka. What is Rivka? Either Chesed Gvur Teferes, or Chesed Gvur Teferes Malchus, whether it's 3 animals or 4 animals, which through the transformation of Ban, which is Gematria Behema, then you have the ultimate level of Tzchaik.
Is also Rebbe talking about Rivka or wife?
Wife? No, Rivka as Rivka.
Rivka.
Yeah.
So we don't get that with our wives, right? It's not a concept.
No. This is no. Dir betachtenim is through a wife. Yeah. What?
I can't follow it. Can you give a synopsis?
I just did. No, it's very simple. He's explaining Rivka lowered the thing, the Kada. Again, we spoke a million times. Yitzchak and Rivka is in the Sham and Guf. That's why the Torah elaborates on it so much. Okay, so by Rivka it says she lowered the Kada Ela Mayan. And he explained to you there's Nahar and there's Mayan. Nahar is overground, Mayan is underground. Okay, but Mayan is the source of the water. So Rivka come and Vatered Kada Ela Shekes. She lowered her Kad. Okay? And he said Kad is the 24 books of Torah. Okay. So understand that level in Ruchnius, we have to understand first Yitzchak. To explain, Yitzchak is the level of Tzchaik. How do you get this unique Tzchaik Lasu Lover? Is through breaking world, elevating world, transforming world. That's joyful by Hashem because it's something new. Right? Tzchaik doesn't come from the same old boring stuff. It comes from new things. So he explained that that's Lasu Lover. Okay, and that's ultimately the level of elevating Elokim, Shabbat Elokim, Lasis L'Sakin, to Sakin, Elokim, the concealment, and so that's the Tzchaik Lasu Lover. So he says this level of Tzchaik Lasu Lover comes through Rivka. Because what's the level of Rivka? The unity of Chesed Gvur Teferes. The level of unity of Chesed Gvur Teferes Malchus, which represents the bittul of Midas. Right? The nullification. Therefore, Chesed and Gvura can get along because Chesed doesn't feel, oh, I am Chesed, and Gvura doesn't feel, I am Gvura. Because Eiseh Shalom B'mreim of Yasu Shalom Aleinu, Hashem makes the peace between Chesed and Gvura. Why? Because when you have a common cause, spoke about this by the class Monday night, when you have a common cause of bittul, so then there's no me and there's no you, there's us. And that's the level of Kedusha. So when you have the bittul of Rivka, which is Chesed Gvur Teferes or Chesed Gvur Teferes Malchus, then you have this level of bittul Talukus in such a way that you tap into a level of Tainuk Momaila in a level of Elokus where there are no midas. It's above, it's essence. Okay? And he says now, that has to come through Rivka. Now he's explaining, V'chein ha'idei dafka. Through that level of bittul, v'teid ha'ayna. She lowered it to the mayon, v'tamale kada. Hainu, ha'idei b'chein is bitter or bittul nefesh habamis dafka. Dafka by refining the nefesh habamis, in ha'idei ha'lozu. Through this elevation of elevating, in other words, gashmias, to make it higher, nimshach liyas yirid of amshach, but tamali chado, hainu chav dalut sifrim dereis. In other words, in order to elevate the world, there has to be vateiret kada. She has to lower Torah, I think he's going to explain, to come into gashmistic things. That means Torah is coming from the Shemayim, ruchnistic things. Torah is coming though into gashmistic things. Okay? So there has to be vateiret kada. But then it says vatmala, she filled it, so that means there became an elevation to the kad, which until now was empty, now it became full.
Ultimately, we're talking about the Shaman Guf. But over here, Torah, the Birokafun.
Right, no? Kine kol ha-Torah nistabshe binyonim gashmi. The whole Torah is in gashmistic things, like mitzvahs, trumas, maitzah, tzemach, v'zerah, kabbonos, balichai. All the mitzvahs are primarily dealing with gashmistic things, which are klipas naida. By day, our mitzvahs through the level of mitzvahs, mizbarim v'nimshach ha'idei zeh, comes through the Torah mitzvahs, comes the gilui ein sof asher anechi mitzavcha hayim. Okay. Now, if you notice, when Eliezer came to the well, and he was davening to Hashem, and he was answered before he finished, he says, anechi nitzav alo ayin. I'm standing, Eliezer, I'm standing on the ayin. Now the ayin is the well that Rivka lowered the kad, the level of Torah mitzvahs, to come into gashmistic things, and to fill it up and elevate it. That brings down the anechi mitzav chayim, or as Eliezer said, anechi nitzav alo ayin. That's the level of anechi, which is the essence of Hashem.
What's the literal translation of ayin here? Is it with
Well.
with an ayin?
No ayin with an ayin. Well,
Oh,
mayan.
ayin. Did Rivka understood this is happening, or now we are analyzing what Rivka did?
Rivka understood it. I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't ask her, but that's what happened. I'm sure Rivka, the great tzaddik she was, understood it. Eliezer was also a great guy. He was an Eved. But he was one of the few guys that went alive to Gan Eden, according to the Medrash.
He didn't die.
One opinion is he didn't die.
Wasn't it dangerous?
Huh?
Wasn't it dangerous to ask Hashem for a sign right from there? Eliezer, what he did, it's a big dangerous.
What was that?
In Torah it says you're not allowed to go al ma'anin vel kaismin.
Yeah.
Okay. Tamim tiyam Hashem alakach. So you're not allowed to make a sign. So the Mefarshim of Chumash and the Poskim, by the way, in Halacha, have a field day with this, because Eliezer made a sign, David and Yonasan made a sign. We find, well, Yiftach said, didn't make a sign. He said, well, the first thing coming out of my house is a carbon. Okay, and his daughter happened to be the first thing out of the house. That's not a sign. It's not the same thing. Eliezer made a sign. If this and that, that's the one that's shidduch. You're not supposed to do that. So the answer, Torah ones you could do, whatever. There's a whole massive discussion in both in Mefarshim of Chumash and in Halacha.
What's wrong with doing something?
When it speaks about you're not allowed to do all these witchcraft stuff and signs and all that, yeah? Yet people say Tuesday is a Mazel Dika day. That's making saying one time is better than the next. So again, there's a whole discussion Allah about that. What?
What's wrong with making it? Just ask Hashem and showing his life.
Because you're not supposed to rely on signs. Therefore, how can you reveal Elokus into Gashmistic things? That's first. You first have to refine the Nefesh Habamis Tchila. Because if you want to do Torah mitzvahs, the only way of getting to do Torah mitzvahs is getting Nefesh Habamis to agree to it. Right? Otherwise, he's not going to let you do Torah mitzvahs. So you have to get the Nefesh Habamis. So first you have to refine the Nefesh Habamis, which is Klippus Neiga. Then you come to that level. Then he could have this aliyah. Therefore, Torah wasn't given to the angels. Why? Like Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, you have a Yetzer Hara. Look, what does Torah have to do with the Yetzer Hara? Because you don't have a Yetzer Hara, you can't get Torah. Mishum klum Yetzer Hara, ve'ich shayach etzem bir klip, I'm sorry, ve'ein shayach etzem bir klipus neiga. Therefore, if you don't have a Nefesh Habamis, you can't elevate it. You can't refine it. So Malachim are born, whatever they are, created with, they're not born, they're created without a Nefesh Habamis. So there's nothing for them to elevate. The whole purpose of Torah mitzvah is to elevate Klippus Neiga. That can only be done by first elevating your own Nefesh Habamis. You don't have a Nefesh Habamis, you can't do it. Even though for sure the Malachim get Elukus. Right? The Malachim. He said, but that's the you're naughty, it's in Asher's a gun. The Bezek, Siva Yosef is beganim with the Sham Malachim Akshim Lokelech. In other Malachim do get. Like he quotes the Pasik. Yosef is beganim. Who sits in Gan Eden? So the Malachim are called Chavedim. One interpretation. Okay, so the Malachim are called Chavedim. So Yosef is beganim Chavedim. So the Nahor Yaitzim Eden, the river that comes from Eden to water the Gan, that Nahor is feeding the Malachim. But Gilu Yavatedu or Aina of Lamata Yeridu Tzerach Aliyah that they don't have. The Malachim. L'chein Amir Azal Asidim Tzadikim Sheyemru HaMalachim Lefneim Kodesh. Therefore, La'atzalavi, the Malachim are going to scream Kodesh to the Neshamas. Because Malachim don't have anything close to the Neshamas.